When I first stepped onto the campus of a small college in Northampton, I was captivated by its Gothic charm and rich history. I had chosen this place for its tight-knit community and unique architecture, and I couldn't wait to start a new chapter of my life. I was assigned to Smith College, one of the dorms on campus. During orientation, some upperclassmen told us that Smith College was haunted. They said strange things happened there, especially on the third floor where I'd be living. But I laughed it off, thinking it was just a way to scare the freshmen. I wasn't one to believe in ghost stories until that one night. It was late October, and the weather was starting to get colder. I was staying up late to finish a paper due the next day. My roommate, Sarah, had gone home for the weekend, so I had the room to myself. I remember feeling a strange chill that night, something more than just the autumn air creeping through the cracks. Then, around 2:30 a.m., I heard it, a faint tapping sound coming from the window. At first, I thought it was just the wind, maybe a branch scraping against the glass. But the tapping was rhythmic, almost like a deliberate knock. I looked up from my laptop, my eyes narrowing at the dark window. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just my imagination. I pulled my sweater closer around me and kept typing, but the tapping didn't stop. It grew louder, more insistent, like someone was trying to get my attention. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My grandmother had given me a small talisman before I left for college. A good luck charm, she said, would protect me. I hung it on my desk lamp, but that night, it felt like it wasn't enough. As I sat there, trying to concentrate on my work, the tapping came back, even louder this time. My breath fogged in the air, and I could see the charm on my lamp swinging slightly, like it had been touched by an unseen hand. I decided to check it out. I had to know what was causing the noise. I pulled back the curtain quickly, hoping to catch whatever it was in the act, but there was nothing there, just the empty courtyard below. But as I turned back to my desk, I saw it, a shadowy figure reflected in the glass standing right behind me. I spun around, my heart racing. But the room was empty, just me and the cold air. I tried to shake it off as a trick of the light, or maybe my tired mind playing games with me. I shut my laptop and climbed into bed, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak and groan of the old building. I kept thinking about the stories I'd heard, the ones I'd laughed off. The night passed slowly, and the anxiety kept me from sleeping. The day after, I was exhausted. I put myself to bed during the day to catch some sleep. That night, I was back at my desk, trying to focus, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Then, just like before, the tapping started again, louder, more frantic. But this time, there was something else, a faint whispering, so soft I could barely hear it over the sound of my own heartbeat. My eyes darted around the room, and that's when I realized the sound wasn't coming from the window this time. It was coming from the closet. My heart pounded in my chest as I stood up and walked toward it, my hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. It was ice cold, colder than it should have been. I yanked the door open, my breath catching in my throat. The closet was empty, just my clothes hanging there. But then I saw it, a crumpled piece of paper on the floor. I picked it up, my hands shaking, and unfolded it. The word "leave" was scrawled across it in jagged, frantic handwriting. My mind raced. Was someone playing a prank on me? Was this some kind of a sick joke? But then I remembered the stories, the ones about Smith College, the ones I had brushed off as nonsense. My pulse quickened, and I felt a wave of panic rising in my chest. I turned around, ready to leave the room. And that's when it happened. The talisman on my desk, the one my grandmother gave me for protection, fell to the floor as if it had been cut from its string. I jumped back, my heart pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. I knew I couldn't stay in that room, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. Sarah wasn't coming back until Sunday, and I didn't want to scare her. So I decided to stay one more night. I lay in bed, unable to sleep, my mind replaying everything that had happened. And then, at exactly 3 a.m., I heard it. A low humming noise, almost like chanting, coming from the direction of the closet. I shot up in bed, every muscle in my body tense. The sound grew louder, and the whispers became a chorus, each voice blending into the next. It felt like the room was closing in on me, the shadows stretching and twisting in the darkness. Then, the closet door creaked open on its own. My breath caught in my throat as a dark figure slowly stepped out. I couldn't see its face, but I could feel its eyes on me. The room grew even colder, and I could see my breath fogging up in front of me. I knew I had to get out of there. I didn't wait to see what it wanted. I screamed and bolted for the door, my feet pounding against the floor as I sprinted down the hallway. The lights flickered above me, and I could hear my own breathing, ragged and panicked. I didn't stop until I reached the common area, where a few of my friends were studying. They looked up at me, their faces a mix of concern and confusion. One of my friends, Tom, a tall guy with a skeptical look, speaks up. "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" I tried to explain what happened, but the words wouldn't come out. I was too shaken. I managed to tell them about the closet, the figure, the whispers. I could see the skepticism in their eyes. They thought I was stressed out, maybe hallucinating from lack of sleep. My friends exchanging worried glances, clearly unsure whether to believe me or not. They suggested I get some rest and maybe talk to someone, but I knew what I saw. I wasn't losing my mind. At least, I didn't think I was. I felt a deep sense of unease, like something was still watching me. The next morning, I knew I couldn't stay in Stokely Hall any longer. My hands were shaking as I packed my things, my mind racing with thoughts of what I'd seen. I felt like I was constantly being watched, like whatever had been in that room wasn't finished with me yet. I didn't care where I went, I just needed to get out. I called my parents and told them I was coming home. They were surprised, but I didn't tell them the full story over the phone. How could I? As soon as I stepped out of that building with my suitcase in hand, I felt a slight relief, but it was short-lived. As I drove away from campus, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still with me, lurking in the shadows. The rearview mirror seemed darker, and every time I glanced at it, I thought I saw something move. By the time I got home, I was a nervous wreck. The first night back, I tried to sleep in my old room. I thought I'd finally be safe, but then the tapping started again, this time on my bedroom window. My heart pounded in my chest as I lay frozen in my bed, staring at the window, waiting for the figure to appear. But it never did. The tapping would stop as suddenly as it started, leaving me in a cold sweat, wondering if I was losing my mind. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow felt like it was creeping closer. Every sound seemed like a whisper just out of earshot. I became paranoid, convinced that whatever haunted Smith College had followed me home. I started to see the shadowy figure everywhere, in mirrors, in dark corners, always just at the edge of my vision. It was like a curse I couldn't escape. My parents grew worried, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and I was afraid to be alone. One night, after a particularly terrifying episode where I thought I saw the figure standing at the foot of my bed, I broke down completely. My parents decided to take me to a psychiatric hospital. I spent the next 4 months there, trying to make sense of what had happened to me. The doctors diagnosed me with severe paranoia and delusions. They said my mind was creating these horrors as a way to cope with stress. But no matter what they told me, I knew the truth. I knew what I had seen. Those months were a blur of therapy sessions and medications, trying to quiet the fear that had taken root deep inside me. Slowly, things started to improve. The visions became less frequent, and the whispers quieted down, but the fear never truly left. After I was released, I had to see a therapist every week for a year. Even now, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, always on edge, always wondering if it's really over. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in my room, I still hear the tapping. Right now, I don't pay too much attention to my experiences and try to put everything into perspective. I consider these experiences a part of my life. There is no point in making myself sick again. I don't know what the future holds, but I try to make every day a good day. If you haven't experienced it yourself, then you can't convince others that there is more between heaven and earth. Some things remain a mystery.